A long time ago, I made a video regarding the career of former outfielder Brian Giles, one of the most underrated players in baseball history. In short, for someone that played in parts of 15 seasons in the big leagues, he earned an impressive 51.1 WAR, being within the top 200 all-time among position players. However, despite a large amount of WAR accumulated, he's only second among players in his own family for most WAR earned in a single season. Brian Giles' single season high was 6.7 in 1999, much lower than his brother Marcus's personal best. Marcus Giles had one of the greatest seasons of the 21st century, but how many people are aware of it? Did you even know Brian Giles had a brother who played professional baseball? Who exactly is this player, and just how amazing was this notable season? Marcus Giles was a second baseman who played in Major League Baseball for 7 seasons from 2001 to 2007. He spent the first 6 years of his career as a member of the Atlanta Braves before playing his final season with the San Diego Padres. In his career, Giles played in nearly 800 games and came to the plate over 3,300 times. He slashed .277 with a .353 on base and .429 slugging for 782 OPS, 103 adjusted OPS, and earned 16.7 WAR. He's a one-time All-Star and received MVP votes in 2 seasons. Also to note, Giles has one of the great success stories of any big league player that was drafted, being selected in the 53rd round, 1,511th overall. I went through every single MLB draft and found only 3 players who were drafted lower and signed to also appear in a Major League Baseball game. Given his short time in the league, Giles never accumulated a noteworthy amount of counting stats, having under 850 hits, under 80 home runs and stolen bases, and under 500 RBIs and runs. Despite that, he still had a handful of productive seasons, batting over 300 twice, hitting double-digit home runs 3 times, and stealing double-digit bases 5 times. Giles may not have the most memorable career, but he still had one incredible season, coming with the Braves in 2003. That year, Giles appeared in 145 games and came to the plate 635 times. He slashed .316 with a .390 on base and .526 slugging for 917 OPS and 136 adjusted OPS. He had 174 hits, which includes 72 extra base hits, scored 101 runs, drove in 69 RBIs, stole 14 bases, had 290 total bases, and earned an incredible 7.9 WAR. For his efforts, Giles was selected to the All-Star game and received a handful of MVP votes. His success also didn't end in the regular season, as Giles had a great performance in the postseason. In 5 games during the National League Division Series, he collected a hit in all 5 games, having an OPS of 983. On paper, this season looks fantastic, but just how good was he when compared to other players? Admittedly, Giles' counting stats aren't super notable. He's inside the top 60 in all of the mentioned stats, but only inside the top 30 in 3 of them: extra base hits, runs, and WAR. While most of his placements are just okay, there is one glaring stat that Giles did excel in, and that is WAR. As mentioned earlier, Giles earned 7.9 WAR in 2003. That was the 3rd highest in the National League and 4th highest in all of Major League Baseball. For context, the only 3 players that earned more WAR were Barry Bonds, Alex Rodriguez, and Albert Pujols, aka the National League MVP winner, the American League MVP winner, and the National League MVP runner-up. How exactly did Giles earn so much WAR? He was an amazing defender, earning 2.3 D-WAR that year, again, the 3rd highest in the National League and the 4th highest in all of Major League Baseball. Additionally, out of 166 qualified hitters in 2003, Giles' 917 OPS was the 25th highest in the major leagues and his 136 adjusted OPS the 29th highest. Looking at 76 qualified hitters in just the National League, he has the 13th highest OPS and 14th highest adjusted OPS. He was equal parts great with the bat and with the glove. To show just how good he was, here is a list of every single player in 2003 to have an adjusted OPS of at least 125 with a D-WAR of at least 2. Marcus Giles. End of list. If I lower the threshold to 1.5 D-WAR and a 120 adjusted OPS, the only other players to match those are Alex Rodriguez, Morgan Ensberg, and Nomar Garciaparra. It is not a stretch to say there was nobody as good offensively and defensively as him in 2003. Based on his value, there is a serious argument that he was a top 5 player in the league that year, and absolutely the best second baseman. I also want to go on the record and state, this season wasn't just one of the best of 2003, it was one of the best of the past 30 years. In the wild card era, which is 1995 to present day, there have been only 80 occurrences of a player achieving at least 7.9 WAR in a single season, and of those 80, only 11 have come from a second baseman. In that same time frame, Giles' season is also just one of 19 where a player had an adjusted OPS of at least 136 with a D-WAR of at least 2.3. He's one of 5 second basemen with that feat, joining Chase Utley, Craig Biggio, Ben Zobrist, and Andres Jimenez. A 30-year period where Marcus Giles was just one of 5 at his position to be that good offensively and defensively, and overall, fewer than 20 have matched him. Now is also a good time to mention that this season kinda came out of nowhere. Entering 2003, Giles had 515 career plate appearances, having an OPS of 743, adjusted OPS of 91, and earned just 1.0 WAR. In only 120 additional trips to the plate, he demolished those stats, going from a bench player to the best second baseman in the game. Not bad for someone that was drafted in the 1500s. This all raises an interesting question though. If Giles transformed into this incredible player in only his first full season, why did he have a short career? Well, a couple reasons, and one was due to an injury the following year. Through the first 6 weeks of 2004, Giles continued his excellence, batting .339 by mid-May. However, in a game against the Milwaukee Brewers on May 15th, Giles collided with center fielder Andrew Jones while fielding a fly ball, suffered multiple injuries, and spent 2 months on the disabled list. He came back in mid-July and remained a solid player, but never duplicated the success he had before the injuries. From 2004 to 2005, Giles had an 824 OPS and 113 adjusted OPS. Again, still fantastic, but nowhere near his 2003 levels. His numbers dropped even further in 2006, where he hit an OPS of 729 and adjusted OPS of 87. According to multiple sources, Giles suffered from more injuries that season, while also feeling uncomfortable being moved up to the leadoff spot from his usual position batting second. After the Braves let him walk in free agency following 2006, the Padres signed him for 2007, where he continued his downward trend, posting the worst season of his career. He eventually got benched in July of that year and was let go in the offseason. He would unfortunately never make it back to the big leagues ever again. For someone that had such little playing time, only managing 500 plate appearances 3 times, you wouldn't expect that player to produce one of the greatest seasons of the past 3 decades, but that's exactly the case with Marcus Giles. He might not have spent a long time in the major leagues, but he made his impact, achieving such a year that only a handful of others have been able to match. Over 20 years later, it's still one of the greatest forgotten seasons a player has ever had.